Hello everybody, this is Sidebar, our brand new show right here on NTV. For an extraordinary year, I'm at Madowo.
Hi, I'm Victoria Rubadiri.
I'm Wallace Kantai, Sidebar on a round table.
And Mijungu is my name.
I'm Smriti Vidyarthi.
Okay, what an extraordinary year it's going to be. I wonder why we're starting a new show right now.
Timely.
What could be going on
What could be possibly
later
going on?
in the year?
I have coffee and biscuits on my table, which are mine, by the way.
These cookies are fantastic, but
Yes.
we're coming to you live from the Radisson Blu Hotel. We've got lots to talk about over the next hour, so let's talk about a snapshot of what we'll be talking about in 60 seconds.
Chikiniki has been on a roll recently.
Chama cha KANU nikiwa katibu mkuu. Tuko ndani kabisa, ndani.
It has now been resolved that the party will support Uhuru.
Muhalifu ambaye amekuja akapiga risasi mama akaua mtoto pia na yeye apigwe risasi.
Oh, it's a catastrophe here for Haran Shakava.
February inflation has reached 9.04%.
There has been quite a bit of single sourcing. I think it's malicious and it's bordering witch hunting.
Wadingo, we shall go by what we have been given under the law.
Kenya Airways will immediately apply for approval to code share with the US Airlines.
All right, so that's some of the things that have happened over the past week. It's not like we were on air last week, but we just figured we'd limit ourselves to the last week, right?
Because there's so much that goes on in this country that if you take a show for 2 days, you literally have nothing you can talk about because there's so much that's going on.
Absolutely.
Very true. I agree.
I agree too.
Everybody agrees, then there's no need for the show. Thank you so much
Thanks for watching.
Hey,
Wonderful. Great.
Kelly's still
What
digesting
matters.
juice, by the way.
We're only picking what
What
matters.
matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But not that everything else doesn't matter, but we pick
What matters more?
what matters to who?
Really?
Yeah.
That's a rabbit hole we don't want to go through.
All right.
Listen though, there are 159 days left until the big election this August. You all know that. In 2013, there were 24,000 people who vied for positions up for grabs. In 2017, this early on, there's 16,000 more people who are interested in those very same seats. Listen.
In the 2013, there were 14,000 aspirants. I think out of 19,000 who wanted to run, 14,000 actually stood for elections. This year, we expect twice the number because I understand MCS has, the seat has attracted a lot of people. So we expect about 40,000 people, aspirants to participate in the elections. What that means is that we are going to have a lot of nomination disputes. We are going to have a lot of other dynamics involved.
Just about 1,900, yes.
Who are these people, though?
Everybody.
It is so hilarious, though, that people will not register to vote. They can't reach half the target, but then we have doubled the aspirants.
No, that's actually a very important point. The reason why people didn't register to vote, and here I'll be very blatant, is because people have had it with politics. You voted 4 years ago now, you voted 5 years before that, and 5 years before that, 5 years before. Nothing happened, so I'll say I don't need to register. On the other side, though, you're going to get, what, 400,000 bobbers and MCA?
There you go.
Right.
There's
Hey,
something in it for everyone who
It can be
goes
the
for
reason.
it.
I think we should look at it in terms of numbers. Let's break it down. Where is most clogged? Is it the MCA? That it means they've realized that that's where.
The MCA would seem like it's the least powerful, but they actually hold a lot of clout, especially
That's
when
the
it comes
reason
to
why.
threatening governors for impeachment.
So they know where the money is.
Right.
Yeah,
But
that's why.
I would say about 1,900. It's actually 1,894 seats. So that's 1,450
So it's 20
MCAs.
It's 20 people per seat.
It's about 20 people per seat, exactly.
Okay.
And there's how many? 349 MPs?
Yes, and we also need to look at it in terms of the party. We break it down. Where are we having most MPs applying or wanting to be members of the county assembly? Is it from what region? Because that will help us then break the numbers.
And ultimately, are we saying that these, contestants or aspirants are being driven for that position just because there is so much up for grabs as being an MCA?
Let me tell you how it happens, because it happened to me once, and it was very hilarious. So you sit there and people sort of know you from one place or the other. The people start putting ideas into your head. Young man, I knew you when you're young and you see you've grown up really well, and if you were to do this. And I guess a lot of people have had that. And as soon as that gets into your head, you start telling yourself, by the way, I can do this, I can become an MP, I can become an MC, I can become a president. And soon enough, you run for office, get broke, come back, try and look for bribes so they can run.
What are the qualifications, though?
I think the first election under the current constitution, they could not foresee the importance of these seats. They could not see the weight. Right now, everyone has understood. And do you know what they've understood? Where the money is. Foreign trips, you know, holding the governors.
Benchmarking trips. Don't call it foreign trips.
Oh,
Benchmarking
trips.
Yes.
So they know where the money is. If you look at that weight, it's actually on the ground.
Which is so
It's not up
unfortunate
here.
because they're looking at how lucrative it is as opposed to what they can do for the constituents, which is what it's all about.
They've never
But
done
isn't that always the case?
Yeah.
Guys,
They've never
it is
done
logical. I will be the devil here. It is logical if there's
You'll be
a
the
lot of money.
devil.
You mean the devil?
The devil that's advocate. Devil's
All right.
advocate.
Oh, the devil.
Okay, Wallace will be the devil here.
If you know that there's money involved in a seat, and this is pure money, whether it's in terms of allowances or pure
Yeah.
salary,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you go for it? So let's stop talking about service to people and everything. Everyone claims that's why they're running for office. That is not why you're running for office.
It's never been the reason for running for office. It's never been service delivery. It's always been about you and your husband.
Okay, I'll
or you-
just,
or
I'll
your-
just surrender
it's
my
about
ideas.
your
And that's
family.
politics.
About
You're much
politics.
too idealistic.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's actually contrast that with the Daily Nation's lead story today, and it talks about corrupt politicians who will be locked out of vying in the August election. This is a big deal, right? The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, apparently compiling a list of those already facing charges and those under investigation, and they will refuse them clearance on integrity grounds.
Impossible.
Which is interesting. Listen to this sound, which includes the bishop, who's now in charge of the EACC.
I think everybody is innocent until proved guilty. You know that. So really you can't say so-and-so is questionable character. And in any case, the best people to judge are the Kenyans. If they know so-and-so is questionable, they should not vote for that person. Yeah, so I think we look at it also from that aspect. This team will work together from both sides, and hopefully in a week's time we shall have a report so that we can move forward.
Let that become the national conversation. But us as institutions, we shall go by what we have been given under the law and try as much as possible to fulfill that on our part.
Before we come back to this band of misfits, I also want to show you a quote by Michael Mubea, the Chief Executive Operations at EACC. In an interview with the Daily Nation, he said, so as to stop the misuse and rampant wastage of billions of shillings given to counties, we will go for those who have enriched themselves using taxpayer resources. They will be taken to court, and those hoping to vie barred from getting clearance for nomination.
Listen, my question is on the issue of barring people who are being investigated. At what point are they going to be barred? Because that investigation needs to be complete for them to be, you know, referred to as corrupt individuals.
At the point of issuing the certificates of clearances, but I'll tell you why this is impossible. One, the Constitution guarantees fair trial, and fair trial only comes at the tail end where it's been deliberated and there's an outcome which is acceptable to both.
And
at
they've
this
exhausted
point,
all appeal
yes, at
mechanisms.
this point,
Yeah.
no one has been charged with anything, or most of them have been charged, but they've not gone through the court process. So on what basis? Actually, if you look at a tweet that was sent out by Evans Kidero today, it's true, it's impossible to bar them
You know
on
the
that
headline in the
basis.
newspapers, and whichever newspaper is going to be in June or whenever it is. All governors, all MCAs, all presidential candidates, everyone is clear to run, everyone just come. Yes, that's a headline.
Really?
It's gonna be, yes.
Oh. Do you think that's going to happen?
It's going to be a very long headline, though, but it's just going to say, everyone just come run.
How do you
This
bar
is
them?
Kenyan. No, excuse me, no one ever gets barred from running for office, regardless of the thing. And if you do try and get barred, I'll come with my village mates, 200 of them in a bus and in a lorry, and that's it, I'm going to run.
See, that's the problem. They'll use our man syndrome to kind of get them in
Exactly.
and abuse that whole process.
Even if you are adjudicated as corrupt and you're found guilty, you know what you'll do? Go for an appeal.
And I've just got to say that, I mean, there are a lot of corrupt people out there, so that would mean a lot of people wouldn't be running.
They will all run.
Yes.
You know who's
My
running
point
though?
is-
You know who's running is two people who are coming on the show after the break. Philip Murgor, the former Director of Public Prosecutions, and Dr. Ekuru Aukot, who's also very familiar with the lawmaking process. But let me just ask you this though. Do you feel like everything you buy these days is a lot more expensive than it was last year?
It certainly
It
is.
would seem so. Yes.
Really? Wallace and the Kenovis don't buy things. If you
Or they
feel
just don't feel the pinch. They're not feeling it.
Just because I was silent for 2 seconds.
If you feel that though, it's true, because Kenya's overall rate of inflation jumped to 4.5-year high in February. It now stands at 9.04%. This is the highest inflation in Kenya since June 2012. And the Kenya National Bureau of Standards blames it on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, on the current drought, which saw an increase in food prices, rather dramatically, I should add. When you look at their data, inflation has been slowly inching up from August last year, when it was 6.25%, save for December when it dropped slightly. Every other month was up until this record high in February. Crucially, this is far above the government's comfort level of 7.5%, so we're well above that. Let's look at the data, though, on just how high the food prices have gone over the last year. If you want to make a comparison, KNBS helpfully added a table with comparisons from February last year and February this year. I'm going to show you the 5 commodities whose prices have risen the most over the past year. The most expensive compared to a year ago today, kerosene. The price is up nearly 68%, incidentally to 68 shillings a litre on average. A kilo of cabbages now 56% more expensive at 75 shillings. The third highest gainer year on year is 1 kilogram of sukuma wiki, which is now selling for about 54 shillings nationwide compared to 36 shillings a year ago. And a litre of diesel now goes for 90 shillings. A year ago, it was only 68 shillings. You'll have to spend 113 shillings for a kilo of mangoes today when you could have saved 30% if you bought it in Feb last year. And one outlier, though, which I must mention, is a 13 kilogram mtungi, as we call it, of gas. It is 15% cheaper compared to a year ago, but otherwise everything else is up. Wallace.
I will give you 2 things about this inflation thing. One, it's the positive and the negative. The negative is, well, let's start with the positive. The positive is that it's going to rain in the next 2 or 3 weeks all over the country. That's what the Met Department says. But those rains may not be to the level that we want them to be, but that obviously brings food prices down. The negative is this: if you correlate that story of inflation to the fact that people are losing jobs, there's so many people who have been laid off. Can you imagine if you went out of work, say in November, you're laid off by your company, and then food prices go up? You're basically a double whammy.
Yeah.
So it's really nasty, and but we hope for the rains. It's the only
we hope for the rains, though? Like, that's where we're at. We're hoping for the rains.
And prayer. You simply hope and pray for the rains. That's the only thing that's going to bring
not a
inflation
hope and
down.
prayer kind of
And
dude.
if it rains for, say, a couple of weeks, is that really going to have an impact?
That's what the Met Department said, that it's going to rain, yes. It might either flood or not rain in enough quantities, so you end up in a problem. And we've had a failed rain season, I think it's October to December. So crops had already started failing, which is partly why it's gone up to 9%. So literally, it's a hope and prayer thing.
Why don't we look at it wholesome? What raises the food prices, for example? Is it only the weather patterns? I don't think it is. I think even the political climate.
Prices.
There's no money in this country. Everyone is complaining, at least from the village.
And this tends to happen during an
this
election
is the most
year,
pedestrian thought, Ken. There's no money because
There's no money.
like those people who say, unajua hata moyo ilikuwa mbaya lakini kulikuwa na pesa. Watu walikuwa na pesa. Have you heard that?
Practically, I'll explain. Contractors are complaining they're not being paid by county governments. Have you heard that?
I know a friend, but they're in Machakos, who's not been paid for almost 2 years.
I know of a guy who's not been paid for 2 years. Now that justifies my statement.
Someone said, and it's a very big risk for this show before you go to the break, it's a very big risk. Do not work with county governments. You are going to get your heart and business broken.
County governments are not paying, and then when you do, you have to grease whose hand.
They prioritize their expenditures over development. They don't have money totally. The Treasury, how many times do they go before the Parliamentary Accounts Committee and complain, we don't have money. Money is not being issued. So I justify my statement. It's not pedestrian.
So you're telling people, Wallace, not to do business with county governments. If you want your money quickly, if you want to make sure business is not going under.
That is what I take away from Sidebar. Be careful when you do your money with the county government, and hope and pray that it rains.
Hope and pray that it rains. We're going to take a quick break right now on Sidebar. When we come back, we're joined by presidential candidates Ekuru Aukot and Philip Mulgore, and I think Smriti and Wallace will be dropping out.
Just because Philip Mulgore is in Lenana school, you cannot have too much Lenana in a show, otherwise it's going to blow up.
God help us all. Listen, we're going to take a
Stepping
break. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to the final trimester of Sidebar. This is our premiere episode.
That's just personal. That is personal.
That's not personal.
It's very personal.
Maybe it's your tummy.
Don't make it about you.
Miruru Waweru tweeted and says, why wouldn't you invite Aukot and Philip Mulgore for 5-minute show? Hopeless.
Because that's how television works. These 20-minute interviews don't do anything.
Nobody has time for an hour's interview, guys.
Yes, and what do you want to know about his family life? No, it's about what he's doing for the country.
Would you like the medical history as well?
Exactly.
Could we move on to our talking points?
Good. So legal and political implications are plenty over the last week after Deputy President William Ruto gave a shoot-to-kill order for the chaos in Baringo. Listen.
Mhalifu yeyote ambaye wako na silaha anaiba ng'ombe ya wengine na kuua watoto na kuua kina mama pia na wao wanapaswa kuuawa. Hakuna dawa.
Ken, you're a lawyer here. Can the deputy president issue a shoot-to-kill order?
He can, but he doesn't have the backing of the law.
So is that a yes or a no?
He can just pronounce it, but he will go nowhere. And I'll tell you
Can't
what.
legally-
Can I tell you what? That's
Can I tell you why?
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Because one, the only person who is supposed to do that is the commander-in-chief or the IG. But it has to be, Kenya has to be in a state of war. Without that, you cannot justify it, and you have to go to the...
But
So,
the-
you know, by the way, someone can disobey that legally.
Okay, so
okay.
hang on. It's a complicated situation. You're going to say, Wallace.
I was going to say this. The problem with lawyers is that they can see 10 sides to a two-sided thing. Fact is, if you're saying he cannot issue one legally, it means he cannot issue one. And the danger is, if you issue a shoot-to-kill order, under what circumstances is that shoot-to-kill happening? If I'm walking on the streets of Marigat and a policeman decides he doesn't like how
I don't like the shape of your head.
shoots me and says, no, it was shoot-to-kill, I was told by the deputy president.
And it happened immediately, by the way.
Hang
as
on.
a chief was killed.
Well,
there should
so a chief was killed in
Yeah.
Baringo.
So there should be
He's done it
conditions
now.
to this shoot-to-kill order that he was not clear on.
You cannot...
No, he cannot.
He cannot
doesn't
give
have the
conditions
All
backing.
right,
as to...
but either way, he has done it now. He has issued that shoot-to-kill order. So now what?
The police can disobey that order lawfully.
So you
They don't
know-
have to execute it.
Boss, that is called a
How can they
constitutional crisis.
disobey?
No, they can disobey it legally.
But if he hasn't given it legally, how...
So they're not
That's
disobeying.
the thing.
They're not
That's the
disobeying
thing.
if he hasn't given
That's the
legally.
thing. When you swear, you say you will
Yeah.
abide by the Constitution.
Okay.
And so that you can translate it, go with it backwards, and then it tells you can disobey what is not lawful.
You can disobey what's not lawful. You were going to say, Vicky?
To be clear, because you said the commander-in-chief can give the shoot-to-kill order, but is it to the military or police? Which one?
To the military.
Military.
Okay, you know what? The import of the chaos in Baringo is that the Kenya Red Cross was forced to withdraw its staff from Baringo on Saturday because one of its relief food convoys was actually attacked. And that's a big problem. They returned yesterday, but the insecurity in Baringo remains. This is what we covered a couple of days ago.
Nchi hii ya Baringo imekaa kama yuko Iraq au Beirut. Lawlessness. No law and order. Ambayo criminals take charge. Criminals run the show.
You know, the problem about this is the Kenya Red Cross usually operates under some kind of a cover of, what is it?
Neutrality. And
Neutrality.
Right.
So they can go places where anybody else cannot go.
if the Red Cross says it's not going into a zone, that is literally the worst of the worst. I mean, they go into war zones, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
They go into places where terrorists are still active and they get respected. If you see you're not going into a region, there is a problem.
And they've dealt with that area before. 2014, 2016, after the Pedo attacks, and the Secretary General, Baskulet, had said that he thinks this is politically motivated. Also
Right.
being that it is an election
But
year.
isn't it always politically
Yeah, 'cause
motivated?
how come?
More so that it is, because he said this scenario, or you know, it's known in different parts of the country. There's cattle rustling, but that's not the issue. The issue is that this is a deeper problem than what we see from.
It certainly is, and I also think, sorry Ken, is that you talked about the shoot to kill. We need to think about what implications is this going to have, you know,
Okay.
on the bigger picture.
It looks as though law was suspended in that area.
Lower suspended, Kent says. Hold that thought right now, because speaking of politics, a video of Raila Odinga from November 2012 is all of a sudden the biggest deal right now. It's doing the rounds again because Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria dug it up, and he posted it on Facebook. It talks about Musalia Mudavadi's role in the biggest scandal in the 90s. Everybody knows it by now. It's a brand name, Golden Bag. Listen.
Mtu ambaye alisimamia kabisa juu ya mambo ya wizi ya Golden Bag sio mwingine ila ni Musalia Mudavadi na Nyayo mwenyewe. Wanajua hiyo. Mwaka hiyo wakati Profesa Saitoti alikuwa ameshatoka kwa Treasury. Mwaka wa 93 waziri wa fedha alikuwa anaitwa Musalia Mudavadi. Hapa walilipa bilioni 5.8 wakabilipa bilioni 13.5.
Before we discuss that, Musalia Mudavadi's alleged involvement in the Golden Bag scandal has gained currency again over the last year. It's kind of coming back. It's a renaissance of this scandal. Munyori Buku is Senior Director of Public Communication at State House. He tweeted this on 2nd November last year. That was really 2nd November 2015. Even Musalia Mudavadi, who capped the Golden Bag thievery with the 5.8 billion shilling payment in 1993, has a view on the economy. It's obviously meant to be sarcastic, but considering who's saying this, you should certainly take it with a pinch of salt. But there's more, because on 24th January this year, the Nairobi Confidential newspaper, anybody know that? And their website?
No.
It pretends to be an investigative journal, but it is widely believed to be a propaganda outlet by you-know-who. It had this story. Fictitious companies were paid more than 100 billion shillings for exporting gold, but the exports never took place. The story said Mudavadi served as the Minister for Finance between 93 and 97. He was accused of overseeing the payment of a large part of the taxpayers' money. It continued. And then there's even more. I wanted to make sure we've covered all of this for you. On the same day NASA became official, Musalia Mudavadi, whose idea it was, came to NTV, and he spoke to NTV's Mark Masai. And because Mark is a great journalist, naturally, the question of Goldenberg came up. This is his response.
You've spoken of having the principles put in place, that is your foundations, and that, I believe, is in the coalition agreement that was signed today. But there's also part of the unifying structure of NASA, the issue of trust. Now, one of the chiefs has before called you or termed you as the architect of Goldenberg. Are you, and that is Raila Odinga, are you able to bury the hatchet and move forward without any bad blood?
First of all, let me put it this way. I was never the architect of Goldenberg. In fact, I am the one who actually slayed it. If you go back into history, you will come to that conclusion. So I have a very clear conscience that when I was Minister for Finance, I played a very important role in bringing to an end the whole saga of Goldenberg, which I found being perpetuated under the scheme of export compensation scheme and other schemes and check kiting and what have you that were going on in the financial sector at that time.
The question obviously then is, was Musalia Mudavadi the architect of Goldenberg?
Two things. One, that Goldenberg price tag keeps on going up. Every year since I was in Form 4 in 1993 has gone up 7 billion to 15 billion to 50 billion now to 100 billion. The Kenyan economy could not have taken 100 billion shillings in 1993. Secondly, I'm going to be totally cynical about this. This stuff doesn't matter.
What do you mean doesn't matter?
I was going to ask, this is the time for all the videos and all the details to start surfacing.
Right.
What impact is it really going to have, if any? It's going to stir controversy, but is it going to have a bigger impact?
Kenyans don't really care about that video, and I bet the voters,
He does.
the voters, no, we do, but Kenyans, no one does. No one does.
My face is, I am aghast.
Yes.
My face is
Really
falling.
it's a fact
really
of like,
cares.
Kenyans went through post-election violence. It didn't matter during the election. Kenyans have gone through theft after theft after theft. It doesn't
They
matter.
don't care.
This will have no implication whatsoever. It goes to the whole thing of there are no permanent enemies in politics.
It is
When
very
you
sad.
see
We're not saying it's a good thing, by the way.
Raila
right?
and Mudavadi on the same
So
side.
what do you think?
I don't know what
He's
I
just in
think,
shock.
but the reason why this is coming up now, obviously coming from Moses Kuria and therefore Jubilee, is that they're trying to say Raila and Mudavadi are now together, but there's a time when they were not together.
Right.
Because that video is from, I think, 2002.
Everyone there has never been with someone else.
Everyone
Everyone,
for them
yeah,
to be
yeah.
together. So
Everyone, when you say
ignore
been
all of
with,
that.
Can I
it
give you
just
the
makes
best
it sound
thing
so...
about this? Everyone has been in bed with everyone.
With everyone, yeah.
So everyone should just be quiet.
So we shouldn't be surprised.
Sips juice and water and everything. I have nothing in front of me. This stuff will not matter.
Do we all agree nobody
nobody cares
Listen,
about it.
Please tell us on the hashtag side, but do you care about who was where and with whom and what did they do?
Very sad, but Kenyans...
Don't pay attention at all.
Well then, okay. Finally, something African. For the second year in a row, there is no former African president worthy of a 500 million shilling prize run by a Sudanese British tycoon. The Mo Ibrahim Foundation announced Tuesday that there was no winner of the 2016 Ibrahim Prize for Achievement in African Leadership. This is a statement from the chair of the Independent Prizes Committee, and listen to it because it's important. As I emphasize each year, a very high bar was deliberately set when the prize was launched in 2006. We recognize and applaud the important contributions that many African leaders have made to change their countries for the better. But the prize is intended to highlight and celebrate truly exceptional leadership, which is uncommon by its definition, shade. After careful consideration, the committee has decided not to award the prize in 2016. That is shade. You know who was eligible, by the way? Tanzania's Jakaya Kikwete, Ghana's John Mahama, Mozambique's Arnaldo Guebuza, and Nigeria's Goodluck Jonathan.
Well,
They're all
Mahama left office this year. So that was a 2016 prize.
2016, yeah.
But anyway, the point is this. Again, this stuff doesn't matter because prizes like this, if you don't award the Nobel 3 years in a row, then come back and award one, and then come back again, not award, this thing will become irrelevant. So either they decide they're going to award it, lower your pass mark, or just forget about it. This thing of
I don't think the presidents really care.
it's not about the money. It's just the thing. It becomes irrelevant if it's never awarded.
Okay.
So such recognition doesn't.
Well, no,
matter
I
to
think
them.
the fact that it's not awarded means that the foundation is trying to say something.
Nobody met
the guys who have won this thing are always from small countries. You have not seen a Nigerian win it, a Kenyan win it, the
And
big
why?
countries.
In fact,
Those are big countries that usually are caught up
They
in
should, but
corruption
they don't.
scandals
So
and
let
all
me explain. The
kinds
candidates for the Ibrahim Prize are all former African executive heads of state or government who have left their office during the last 3 calendar years, so 2014 to 2016. They must have been democratically elected and they must have served their constitutionally mandated term. So Nelson Mandela was honored in 2007. He was the original one.
Obviously.
And then that same year, it was awarded to President Joachim Chissano of Mozambique. 2008, they gave it to Festus Mogae of Botswana.
Then the ran out of presidents.
There were no winners in 2009 and 2010.
You know why?
2012
Then
and
President
2013.
Pedro Pires of Cabo Verde won in 2011.
Botswana
Another
map.
2 years without honorees. Then the last laureate was Hifikepunye Pohamba of Namibia.
There is your
2014.
answer. There is your
Okay.
answer. There is your answer.
Guys, that's where we have to leave it. Any final thoughts? 10 seconds, because they have
I
to.
am the cynic, and I'm sorry for being the cynic, but I
Okay.
think I'll continue being the cynic on this show.
We need a cynic. Guys, thank you so much. This has been Sidebar. We're back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. I'm Larry Madowo.
I'm Victoria Rubadiri.
I'm Wallace Kantai.
Ken Mijungu.
Smriti Vidyarthi.
It happens all over again. Wednesday, 8 p.m.